This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
It's the Noon Report from Family Life, bringing a Christian worldview to what's happening in New York, Pennsylvania, across the country, and around the world. Weather with Kevin Williams, plus special features and reports with the Family Life News team. Now, here's what's happening.
Off the air. Good afternoon. Welcome aboard. ABC has suspended indefinitely late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel for controversial comments he made about the Charlie Kirk killing. In his monologue Monday, Kimmel suggested the alleged assassin, Tyler Robinson, was part of the pro-Trump MAGA movement.
We had some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
That didn't sit well with FCC Commissioner Brendan Carr.
Late night shows, something's gone seriously awry there. They went from being court jesters that would make fun of everybody in power to being court clerics and enforcing a very narrow political ideology. And Nexstar stood up and said, look, we have the license and we don't want to run this anymore. We don't think it serves the interests of our communities.
President Trump took to social media to congratulate ABC on, quote, finally having the courage to do what had to be done, end quote. 3 police officers were killed in the line of duty yesterday in York County, Pennsylvania, about 115 miles west of Philadelphia. 2 others were wounded.
This is an absolutely tragic and devastating day for York County and for the entire Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Governor Josh Shapiro at a press conference late yesterday.
We need to do better as a society. We need to help the people who think that picking up a gun, picking up a weapon is the answer.
The cops were shot while trying to serve a search warrant. The gunman was killed by police. The shooting represents the deadliest day for law enforcement in the Keystone State since 2009. President Trump wrapped up his state visit to the UK today by turning from pomp to politics.
The bond between our countries is like no other anywhere in the world. The United States and the United Kingdom have done more good on this planet than any 2 nations in human history.
He took part in a joint news conference with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer at the PM's country estate in Chequers.
Mr. President, next year we'll celebrate the 250th anniversary of the United States. We've come on a long journey together since 1776.
The president and prime minister signed a new $42 billion tech deal that has to do with the development of artificial intelligence. Mr. Trump and First Lady Melania arrived back in Washington this evening. The president's designated the far-left group Antifa a terrorist organization. He made the announcement yesterday calling that group a sick, dangerous, radical disaster. Mr. Trump says he'll push for an investigation into those who fund Antifa.
Antifa is not just some vague ideology. It's actually an organized group, and they've performed organized activity across the country in attacking different places, cities. And this is a situation where you have these domestic terror cells that are organizing online, and they deserve to be investigated.
Ben Domenech is editor-at-large at The Spectator.
This last administration under Joe Biden leaned heavily into targeting various Christian groups and the like, really, I think, in many instances, abusing their power and framing them falsely as white supremacist groups and the like. And I think that this administration is basically saying, look, you took your eye off the ball. Those groups were never a threat to the American people. They never represented an actual violent threat. And instead, you persecuted them. We're now going to use the full force of the law to go after the people who really do represent violent threats.
There are approximately 200 Antifa groups of varying sizes and activity levels across this country. Egyptian authorities are searching for an ancient gold bracelet that disappeared from a museum in Cairo. The 3,000-year-old bracelet belonged to a pharaoh who ruled Egypt about 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. The bracelet was being restored in a laboratory when it went missing. Photos of it have been sent to airports, seaports, and border crossings all over Egypt to keep it from being smuggled out of the country. Still to come on the Noon Report, more on the York County cop killing, what Obama said about Charlie Kirk, and the falling of New York's oldest wind farm.
Good afternoon. I'm Kevin Williams. A nice day underway. We'll have the details in the forecast heading toward the weekend coming up. We'll see you in 10 minutes.
All right, Kevin, we'll check back then. Let's check the stories making news where you live. Flags flying at half-staff today all over Pennsylvania in honor of those 3 police officers who were killed in the line of duty in York County yesterday. The gunman was wearing camouflage and opened fire from a nearby cornfield while officers were trying to serve a warrant at a farmhouse about 100 miles west of Philadelphia.
I heard gunshots, which is not, uncommon. But then, they just kept coming and coming.
Another neighbor describing the non-stop sound of gunfire.
It was just continuous. It was at least 30 shots. And it went on for quite a while.
The shooter was the ex-boyfriend of a woman who lived in that farmhouse and was stalking the residents the night before. He was fatally shot during an exchange of gunfire with police. 2 other cops were wounded. They are listed in critical but stable condition. Former President Barack Obama was in Erie, Pennsylvania this week and spoke about the Charlie Kirk assassination.
On both sides, undoubtedly there are people who are extremists and who say things that are contrary to what I believe are America's core values. When we have the weight of the United States government behind extremist views, we've got a problem.
At a sold-out event at the Erie Insurance Arena, the former president suggested the current one needs to tone down the rhetoric. But Byron York with the Washington Examiner says the Charlie Kirk assassination is a reality check for the far left.
A lot of people on the progressive left believe that we don't do that kind of thing. They do that kind of thing. And when someone clearly on their side has done this, I think they simply can't accept it. So they say, well, he was really MAGA, or he was a gamer, or he was in love. I mean, he was just lovesick. If it weren't so serious, it would be funny. But they cannot accept what is in front of their face right now.
During his speech in Erie, Obama condemned the Kirk killing as horrific, but he also said Americans should be free to criticize his political views. New York's oldest wind farm is no more. 7 towering wind turbines were demolished yesterday in Madison County.
We had to evaluate whether it made sense to refurbish them and make them run longer or to take them down.
Rachel Smith was in charge of that demolition project.
We are able to divert the turbine blades to a waste-to-energy facility in Niagara County, New York, and the rest of it will likely end up in a landfill.
The bases of those 200-foot-tall turbines were packed with explosives and then blown up. They stood for more than 20 years and were brought down in about 20 seconds. The property where those turbines were located will be turned back into farmland there in Madison County. Call it the Big Reset in Buffalo. After being rebuffed by residents on a $1 billion transportation project, the state has launched a do-over of sorts for the Kensington Expressway overhaul. Here's the DOT's Richard Fontana.
Today, we are announcing Queen City Forward, an initiative to grow this project from the ground up. It's emblematic of what we want to achieve here. We want the entire city to be seen, heard, and understood. The people of the city must have their say.
75,000 vehicles a day traverse the Kensington Expressway. It's one of the main arteries into and out of Buffalo. Pennsylvania ranks 5th in the nation when it comes to animal collisions with cars. Family Life's Brian Query.
A new report from insurance company State Farm estimates that 1.7 million insurance claims in the United States annually are due to animal collisions. The data spans from July 1st, 2024 to June 30th, 2025, and Pennsylvania drivers face the odds of an average of 1 in 62 of being involved in a collision with an animal. October through December is the highest risk time span for animal-related collisions, making up 41% of all animal collision claims. West Virginia took number 1 on the survey, a spot that the state has held for over a decade. Brian Query, Family Life News.
Thank you very much, Brian. The Keystone State is a key part of a growing number of tourist plans. That story from Family Life's Mark Webster.
Yeah, a report from the Pennsylvania Tourism Office shows the number of PA visitors continues to rebound from the pandemic years, and the forecast is for more of the same. The state says over 200 million people visited Pennsylvania last year, a level not seen since 2016, generating $84 billion for the economy and supporting 500,000 jobs. The near term promises more of the same, with PA set to host the NFL Draft, the FIFA World Cup, along with a lot of patriotic-minded Americans marking America's 250th birthday next year. Mark Webster, Family Life News.
Appreciate it, Mark. Rochester, New York is out with this year's nominees for Toy Immortality. Here's correspondent Deborah Rodriguez.
They've announced finalists for the National Toy Hall of Fame, and a classic tabletop game makes the top 12.
You sank my battleship, and history is made.
Catan, Connect 4, and Trivial Pursuit are in the running too. Among cuddly contenders,
it's new Tickle Me Elmo.
So is another 90s technological icon.
What's that? Oh, it's my Furby.
Scooter Slime, the Star Wars lightsaber. Cornhole and Plain Old Snow are all finalists. The public has until September 24th to vote on favorites.
All right, that's Deborah Rodriguez reporting from the National Toy Hall of Fame in Rochester, New York. We've got sports next. It's the 2-minute drill on the Family Life Noon Report.
Good afternoon, I'm Randy Snavely. Bob 2 division leader squared off again in Los Angeles last night, and Blake Snell was dominant for the Dodgers. He struck out a potent Phillies lineup 12 times and tossed 7 shutout innings. Both Freddie Freeman and Shohei Ohtani went deep for L.A., who won the game 5-0 and avoided being swept at home. For Philadelphia, the loss drops them 2.5 games behind Milwaukee for the best record in baseball. The Brewers beat up the Angels 9-2. The Yankees won the rubber game of their series with the Twins 10-5. Trent Grisham went deep twice, while Cody Bellinger did it once. The Padres even their series with the Mets after taking down New York 7-4. Manny Machado threw for 5, and he hit a granny for the Fathers. The Mets' runs all came on solo shots. Alonso, Marte, Soto, and Alvarez all went deep. The Chicago Cubs are back in the postseason after a 4-year absence. Ian Happ homered and drove in 3 as the Cubbies doubled up the Pirates 8-4. Elsewhere, the Reds beat the Cards 6-2. Baltimore a 3-1 winner over the Pale Hose. The Giants put a damper on the D-backs' wild card hopes with a 5-1 victory. Atlanta knocked off Washington 9-4. Detroit got shut out by Cleveland 4-0. In 10, the Red Sox edged the Athletics 5-4. The Rays got past the Blue Jays 2-1. Kansas City came back with 4 runs in the 8th, and they snapped Seattle's 10-game winning streak 7-5. Houston 5, Texas 2, and Miami doubled up Colorado 8-4. And tonight in Orchard Park, a couple of division rivals who are currently headed in the wrong direction face off. The Buffalo Bills, the 2-0 Bills, are hosting the 0-2 Miami Dolphins. That is a look at sports.
All right, Randy, thank you. And still to come on the Noon Report for Thursday, Trump wraps up UK trip, Jimmy Kimmel off the air, and more on that tragic police shooting in Pennsylvania.
Welcome to Breakpoint, a daily look at an ever-changing culture through the lens of unchanging truth. At the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet. On a recent visit to the Interesting Times podcast, Noor Siddiqui, the head of the IVF screening company Orchid, told Ross Douthat that baby making needs to change. Not only will the genetic screening of embryos be available, she predicted, it will become the new normal of procreation. And I quote, "The vast majority of parents in the future are not going to want to roll the dice with their child's health. They're going to see this as taking the maximum amount of care, the maximum amount of love. In the same way they plan their nursery, plan their home, plan their preschool, I think it becomes about stewardship. It becomes about how do I make a responsible choice for my family," end quote. Now, Siddiqui is probably correct with this prediction. When children are seen as accessories to adult life, eugenics is the path that makes the most sense. Why wouldn't we take every step possible to optimize the health of the child we take home, even if that involves creating and discarding other tiny humans in the process? Why wouldn't we use the best available technologies in order to get the baby that is the most healthy? IVF is pitched as a therapeutic technology, of course, enabling those who are unable to have kids to become parents. But increasingly, it's also sold by appealing to certain lifestyle choices. Those who wish to postpone pregnancy or to hand off the task to willing incubators can all still have the children they want when they want them. Now, to be clear, the IVF process has always separated procreation from sex, and it has always involved, to some degree or another, the screening and selection of embryos. Siddiqui is simply promising more of the same, only better. Sex is for pleasure, she said on several occasions. IVF is for having children. There's a market, she thinks, and more thorough testing and better screening. And she's probably right. As many people have noted, the 1997 movie Gattaca has proven eerily prophetic. The main difference is in that movie, society was obsessed with genetic perfection. Ours is more intrigued by that concept, but mostly as a way of maintaining the lifestyles we all want. Of course, if Orchid services are ever perfected and normalized, parents who choose to have babies the old-fashioned way will soon be accused of being reckless and irresponsible. Those who don't genetically screen out imperfect children will be labeled abusive and heartless. One can easily imagine a world in which insurance companies will cover the cost of certain pregnancies that guarantee certain outcomes, but not others. As Dr. Kristen Collier put it after a visit to Orchid's website, quote, "This is not healthcare. No, it's a way of normalizing the next descent on an already very slippery slope." In a recent post on X, Princeton professor Robert George described perfectly what is really at stake here, as modern technology makes eugenics even more possible. Quote, "Eugenics is now a permanent temptation. Every new generation will face it. Resisting it will be difficult as it is important. So it's critical we understand children as persons, not products. We must not make them objects of manufacture, subject to quality controls." End quote. Indeed, but so much of this ethical genie has already been let out of the bottle, and has been for some time now. We have to oppose eugenics in all forms, but that requires that we recognize eugenics when we see it. And we have to train the next generation, especially the next generation of parents, about the God-given intrinsic good of children. Stanley Hauerwas famously said that if in 100 years Christians are known as those who did not kill their young and do not kill their elderly, we will have done well. Yes, and if so, that will likely mean that we are also known for the way we make babies. For the Colson Center, I'm John Stonestreet with Breakpoint.
All right, let's head outside next. Kevin Williams.
Here is your family life weather forecast. This afternoon, ample sunshine and warm, high temperatures nearing 80. Clouds will gather tonight, low temps 50s. Tomorrow, in New York State, cooler, a morning sprinkle, clouds break for some sun, highs in the 60s. In Pennsylvania tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds and a high in the 70s. Saturday, mostly sunshine with high temperatures mid-60s to the middle 70s.
All right, thank you, Kevin. This is the Noon Report on Family Life. I'm your host, Bob Price. Great to have you with us today. Big doings in the UK. That's our top story Thursday, September 18th. President Trump talking trade and foreign policy with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer as the president wraps up a 3-day state visit. Trump and Starmer got down to business at the PM's country estate in Chequers, some 30 miles north of London. That's where we find NBC's Peter Alexander.
This is the Prime Minister's 16th century estate here in the English countryside. Think of it as being kind of like Camp David back at home. The President and Prime Minister meeting here behind closed doors after the President basked in the glow of that British royal welcome. All of those festivities, of course, by design, meant to grease the wheels for key discussions amid differences over foreign policy and trade.
The heads of state did sign a new $42 billion tech deal today that has everything to do with the development of artificial intelligence. Here's British PM Starmer.
This tech partnership has the power to change lives. This is the territory on which the future will be won.
Historian Niles Gardner says the political styles of Starmer and Trump could not be more different.
This is a very left-wing government under Keir Starmer. It's also extremely unpopular, with an approval rating for the Prime Minister around 15 to 20%. And so there's a huge difference between President Trump, who's a very, very strong leader, and Keir Starmer, who the British people will view as extraordinarily weak.
Last night, the Trumps were wined and dined during a lavish state banquet banquet at the home of the king. Jared Halpern continues our coverage.
Sitting in the center of a table about half the length of a football field inside Windsor Castle, President Trump paid tribute to his host.
The lion-hearted people of this kingdom defeated Napoleon, unleashed the Industrial Revolution, destroyed slavery, and defended civilization in the darkest days of fascism and communism.
King Charles III noted a shared language and heritage.
The successes of the British Redcoats and of George Washington's Continental Army today stand shoulder to shoulder, brothers and sisters in arms.
President Trump is the first American president to be hosted at 2 state dinners in Great Britain, invited during his first term.
The first family set to board Air Force One soon and fly back to Washington. Flags are flying at half-staff today in Pennsylvania. This follows the tragic deaths of 3 cops killed by gunfire in the line of duty. 2 others were wounded in that attack in York County. Correspondent Anna Schechter.
Well, 5 police officers were executing a search warrant. This was an individual known to them, so they were returning there, and as they approached the structure, this gunman exited, shot all of them, and then police shot him.
The shootout happened in a cornfield. The 2 wounded police officers are in stable condition. That shooting represents the deadliest day for law enforcement in Pennsylvania since 2009. The curtain has come down on late-night talk show host Jimmy Kimmel.
It's Jimmy Kimmel. ABC pulling Late Night with Jimmy Kimmel indefinitely over parts of his monologue Monday.
With the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
A major ABC affiliate owner, Nexstar, threatened to stop airing the show over those comments. FCC Chair Brendan Carr appeared on conservative podcaster Benny Johnson's The Benny Show, suggested the network's license was at risk.
We can do this the easy way or the hard way.
That's Matt Wolf in Washington. A troubling new survey shows for younger generations, political violence is becoming more acceptable. Listen to this from Fox News reporter Mark Thiessen.
There is political violence, but it is a problem on the left. YouGov poll asked, do you support using violence against people for political beliefs? 9 out of 10 conservatives said no, they don't support that. Almost a quarter of people who say they're very liberal said yes, and another 20% say that they weren't sure. Almost half of people who consider themselves very liberal either support or are indifferent to political violence. That's a huge problem.
Again, that survey from YouGov, it polled Americans under the age of 45. In the week since the Charlie Kirk assassination, the organization he founded, Turning Point USA, has got nearly 55,000 requests from students nationwide to start new chapters all over this country. Tens of thousands have reached out to do field work, like registering people to vote. Turning Point spokesman Andrew Culvett says Kirk has lit a fire, both in life and in death.
I hate that it happened, but if you would have put a choice in front of Charlie Kirk and said, you're going to die, but hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of people are going to come to faith and they're going to be inspired to love their country again, he would take that choice. I know he would have.
Kirk's widow, Erica, will speak at his funeral Sunday in Phoenix, as will both the president and vice president. Charlie Kirk would have been 32 years old next month. President Trump has promised to designate a new terror organization. Reporter Linda Kenyon.
On Truth Social, President Trump posted, quote, I am designating Antifa, a sick, dangerous, radical left disaster, as a major terrorist organization, unquote. The president added he is recommending those funding Antifa be investigated. Antifa, which is short for anti-fascist, is a loose affiliation of mostly left-leaning groups. Trump made a similar announcement during his first term, but did not follow through on the designation.
That's Linda Kenyon in Washington. Shock poll, just 35% of parents in this country, according to a new Gallup survey, are satisfied with the quality of education in kindergarten through 12th grade. Those findings mark mark the lowest satisfaction level since Gallup began this poll in 1999. A new study finds head injuries from contact sports can cause brain cell loss long before the diagnosis of CTE. Reporter Michael Wallace.
Jonathan Cherry and his team at Boston University studied the donated brains of dozens of men under 50. What they found in the brains of those who had played contact sports shocked them.
Inflammation, loss of brain cells, blood vessel damage.
Even in the men who never developed CTE. Cherry says repetitive head impacts cause brain injuries much earlier than researchers first thought. He says we have to rethink our approach to youth sports.
Michael Wallace reporting. And you're listening to the Noon Report, a Thursday edition on Family Life.
This is Faith Under Fire. We take you straight to the voices on the front lines of religious battlegrounds. I'm news anchor Sarah Harnish, and today we're talking Nepal. Nepal may have just had a revolution. The government is gone. Tens of thousands of young protesters took to the streets and set the nation on fire. Missionaries there have had to go underground for their own safety. Today we speak with one missionary anonymously to protect their work. Let's listen in.
The government was overthrown by a group of young adults, mostly Gen Z, who just had enough of the corruption and the government itself and decided to fight back. Last week, we got notified that almost all social media was being banned. And the next day, we woke up and a lot of our social media wasn't working anymore. Facebook, Instagram, Messenger. And then we were just waiting for like other apps, YouTube, Gmail, Pinterest to stop working as well. And that made people so frustrated that their rights were taken away. And so the next day, a huge group of young adults protested at a government building. I don't think that they were doing anything bad, but the police are only supposed to use fake bullets or like tear gas or something to kind of make them not come into the government buildings, but they ended up shooting and killing 19 people at that protest. That really enraged people even more. And so the next day, everybody was so enraged about that. Protests started breaking out in the street, which looked like people burning things, throwing things in the street, anything related to police or government. They broke into government officials' houses, even a government official daughter who lives near us. Her house was set on fire, totally burned. There were schools, cars, houses that were all burned in one day. And then later that day, the prime minister, who's the leader of Nepal, resigned. And then the next day, the military took over. So now there's no government.
What dangers are missionaries facing in Nepal right now? And what can happen when there is no government?
Nepal is a very peaceful country in general. But without any government creates the problem of if someone comes into leadership who is very strict with religious laws, that would create difficulty for us. And we would have to be much more underground with our faith or not so open about it, because right now we're able to be Christians, someone of a different faith. We just legally aren't allowed to like convert other people to this religion. I think the biggest threat is if a leader comes who is much more restrictive, then that wouldn't be good for us.
Have you had to change what you do to stay safe there?
Everybody is staying home. The military has put in place curfews for what times of day we can go outside. And that's like 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the evening. People who aren't Nepali, who are living here, we all are just sticking to the rules. Like we don't want any trouble. So I have just been at home all day, only going out when those time frames are available.
How does the country become safe again for underground missions work? It was already grossly restricted before the government overthrow. This is one of the hardest places to share the hope of Christ. So where do you see it going from here? I know you don't know who the leader's going to be yet, so that radically impacts what happens. I mean, maybe the next leader favors Christians.
I think it really depends on the next leader, because that just determines what people are going to do. The fact that people went against the government in this way, that has not happened before. They've never seen that. So if the leader isn't favoring to Christians, then that would be difficult. So yeah, we are just praying for that a really good leader who could lead the country well and doesn't have those same corrupt habits as the previous government, if they came into action, then that would be so good for the country and also good for us.
How can we pray?
That it would be a good leader and it would be quickly established so that no other chaos can erupt. And also just for the rebuilding of the nation, because so much damage was done. Praying for a beautiful future for the country, and that's what we're hoping and believing for.
What do you want someone considering missions in a country that's hostile to Christians to know?
Many people, they might feel a little nervous to think about going somewhere new, but the fact is that we get to share God's love with people, even if we're not directly sharing the word of God with them. Just being here and sharing his love makes a big difference.
Is it worth it to be a missionary?
He's given me the grace and the strength that I need to be here. And so I know this is where he's called me. And even in this moment, it's kind of crazy, oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But in those moments, he is who we are trusting. But we know it's where he's called us. So we know he protects us. And it's worth it for sure. It's worth it for each person to do what God has called them to.
Amen. That is a missionary to Nepal, way up in the Himalayan mountains. Speaking to our own Sarah Harnish today on Faith Under Fire. You can subscribe, listen to, and share all our Faith Under Fire podcasts at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or FamilyLife.org.
Good afternoon. Here is your Family Life regional weather forecast. The storm system that brought some showers yesterday to parts of central and eastern Pennsylvania is moving out to sea now, and high pressure will rule our entire region with fair, dry, and warm conditions today. A weak cold front will approach tonight and tomorrow. Could bring a sprinkle to parts of New York State and a bit cooler air in its wake, teeing up a nice weekend. The next chance for any widespread showers not coming till early next week. For this afternoon, ample sunshine and warm, high temperatures nearing 80. Clouds will gather tonight, low temps 50s. Tomorrow, in New York State, cooler, a morning sprinkle, clouds break for some sun, highs in the 60s. In Pennsylvania tomorrow, a mix of sun and clouds and a high in the 70s. Saturday, mostly sunshine with high temperatures, mid-60s to the middle 70s.
All right, thank you, Kevin, for all the hard work at the Weather Center. And finally, today it is National Cheeseburger Day, and there's plenty of deals out there to help you celebrate. For instance, McDonald's offering 50-cent double cheeseburgers, quite a deal, but you got to have the app. White Castle's giving customers a free slider today, and Shake Shack is teaming up with DoorDash to offer discounts as well. A recent YouGov poll ranks the cheeseburger as the 6th most popular food item in America. Number 6 on the list. I'd put it in the top 3 if it was me, but they didn't ask me. And that's our world. The world we live in. Thursday, September 18th. I'm Bob Price. Family Life News.
You've been listening to the Noon Report, heard weekdays on Family Life. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.